Hey guys, today I'm going to read Rodrick Stinks 4 by you/johnwasnever. Last time on Rodrick Stinks, Friday this morning, Mom and Dad didn't have a clue about the whole Rodrick thing that happened last night. I'm not surprised. What does surprise me though is that no one knows about it. No one at school even brought it up. But that was technically a good thing. So I just brushed it off, and Rodrick and I went home as usual. That all changed though when there was a knock at the door. You two will be coming with me. Rodrick and I looked at each other. Rodrick, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Ravioli should be each sold separately. I looked back at the guy, and he seemed to look kind of impatient. I told him to wait a minute, and then I shut the front door. Rodrick, I think this guy works for the CIA. He's probably here because of what you did yesterday. All right, that's it. I am going to take you two by force. Run, Greg. The CIA-looking guy then busted down the door. Me and Rodrick ran down the hallway. Luckily, Mom and Dad were still at work, so they don't know what's going on. Luckily, that bought us some time, and we continued running. But the CIA guy got back up pretty quickly. Which way did he go? That way. Rodrick and I hid in a closet before he saw us. Phew, that was close. Hey, you're supposed to count to 10, then look for us. Whoops, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. That's when the CIA guy grabbed Rodrick. My heart dropped, but I shouldn't have been so quick to judge. Oh my, at least take me out to dinner first. Smooch. Rodrick got away, and I ran around the corner. But then Rodrick somehow squeezed into a mouse hole in the wall. I don't even know where Rodrick got a gun from, but it didn't really matter because the CIA guy gave up. The CIA guy rubbed his face and then told us angrily that he wasn't here to hurt us. I asked him what he was talking about, and he said he'll explain why no one remembers what happened yesterday. I was a little suspicious, but also curious. I know that if he tries to pull something funny, Rodrick can stop him in a snap, so I finally agreed to listen to him. The guy took us to his black car and told us what his name was. Look, my name is Barney. The dinosaur. No, Barney told us he works for the CIA and that no one remembers what happened last night because the government erased the minds of everyone. So I asked him if Rodrick was in trouble, and he said no, but there is something he has to do. I was sent here to get Rodrick. The government wants Rodrick to join a military school so they can shape him up. What? Rodrick can't survive military school by himself. I mean, look at him. Rodrick really didn't have a choice about going, so I made a really big decision. Well, if Rodrick is going, I guess I am going too. That's acceptable. Well, pack your bags boys, you're going to military school. You/johnwasnever presents Rodrick Stinks Full Metal Rodrick. October Saturday. There was only one last problem with Rodrick and I going to military school, and that was how Mom and Dad were gonna react. So last night, I lied and said that me and Rodrick were going on a school field trip for a while, and they easily believed me. So today me and Rodrick got our bags, and we were picked up by Barney, the CIA guy. While we were being taken to the military school, I tried to ask some more questions. Is there anything else I need to know? The whole mind erasing thing is all I know. Also, good luck in the military school. The head sergeant there is a monster. We arrived at the military school, and it was as depressing as I thought it would be. There was a guy yelling at these boys because they didn't have their shoes tied. Do you idiots not know how to tie your own shoes? Then I heard the guy mention this thing called the chair. So I asked Barney what they were talking about, and apparently they have an actual electric chair. Now I'm really worried. I have to make sure Rodrick doesn't get into too much trouble, or he will get the chair. When we got out of the car, we were greeted by that same guy. It turns out, he was the head sergeant. Listen up, I am Sergeant Titsworth. But you two will address me by Mr. T. Understand? Understood. Yep. What? Don't you know who I am? Oh, Titsworth. I am Mr. T. I immediately pulled Rodrick back and apologized to Mr. T like, a million times. Mr. T told me that Rodrick is lucky, that he's in a good mood. Then he sent us to our cabin. When Rodrick and I got to the cabin, we couldn't not notice how old and dusty our cabin was. It looks like it was never clean ahead. I got a bed, and Rodrick got a hammock. No fun. Sunday this morning, Mr. T woke us up with a megaphone. Rodrick and I got up, and the first thing we were ordered to do was get a haircut. Apparently, it's mandatory to get all our hair out off. Later today we went to lunch, and we got to meet our cabin mates for the first time. The first kid was Weevil. He got his voice box removed because he talked too much. Another one is Juicebox. He got his nose removed because he sneezed on Mr. T once. The other two kids were Big Marcus and Cutter. Mr. T had Big Marcus' stomach removed because he ate too much, and Cutter's wheelchair was taken away so he can learn to walk on his hands. After they all introduced themselves, I told them about Rodrick. I explained the whole story about how he acts all weird. But it was kind of charming actually, because they all accepted him because they all were misfits as well. Everything was wholesome up until Rodrick decided to ruin it. Food fight. Believe it or not, everyone in the cafeteria actually started to throw their food. Everything was chaotic until the cafeteria ladies came out and stopped everyone. These random kids snitched on Rodrick and told the cafeteria ladies that it was him that started it. So as punishment, one of the cafeteria ladies started to spank Rodrick with a paddle. As usual, the tables turned. I immediately ran over to Rodrick and took the paddle away from him before things could get worse. I started to give Rodrick a piece of my mind, but right as I was doing that, Mr. T stumbled into the cafeteria. It had to be the worst timing ever, because the first thing Mr. T saw was a cafeteria lady injured, and me holding a paddle. Mr. T assumed it was me, and so he grabbed me and dragged me out. Mr. T said that as punishment for injuring a cafeteria lady, I get the chair. But since someone was already getting the chair today, I would be getting cell time for the rest of the day, and I'll get the chair tomorrow. So Mr. T took me to one of the cabins that had actual cells. He put me in one of them, and locked it. Then he sat in a chair outside of the cell and fell asleep. A few minutes later, I saw Rodrick and the other guys outside the window. I guessed that they were here to get me out. The first person to walk into the cabin was Weevil. They probably made Weevil come in first because he was the most quiet. He tried to take the key from Mr. T, but he couldn't because Mr. T moved his hand over it in his sleep. Weevil went back outside, and I thought they all ran out of ideas. That was when Rodrick came into the cabin. I couldn't believe it, Rodrick actually had Mr. T under his spell. He didn't even know it was Rodrick. When Mr. T asked who Rodrick was, Rodrick said, "Rodrickina." Wow, I like a big strong man who has keys. How do you like these apples? Faint. After Mr. T fainted, Rodrick grabbed the keys and got me out of the cell. I just hope that tomorrow Mr. T will forget about all that happened. Monday, Mr. T woke us up this morning just like any day. He started talking about a girl he met, and I thought we were busted. But then he talked about the whole situation being a dream. I hope I have that dream every night from now on. Alright, now everyone get outside. After Mr. T got all of us outside, we all started following him into the woods. Trust me, we were at least walking for about 3 hours. At one point, Mr. T stopped us and told us to find our way back to the cabin, and then he started booking it. We all tried chasing after him, but he was too fast. So at one point, we lost him. So the only choice we had left was to find our way back to the cabin. After walking for a few hours, we found a giant tire. It might not be a big deal, but it's the only interesting thing we've seen all day. Since it was starting to get dark, we all made the decision to camp there for the night. I was actually really impressed by the other kids because they actually worked together and made a bonfire. We were all sitting around the campfire and we were starving. I'm pretty sure Rodrick started to image Big Marcus as meat. So at this point, we were lost, cold, and starving. But that's not all, it got even worse. We all started to hear footsteps from the darkness. So we all huddled together in fear. Please don't be the milkman. Don't let him take my milk. What if it's Shane Dawson? Shane Dawson is scary. Whoever or whatever it was finally stepped into the light. I still can't believe who it was. Hey, I'm lost. Can you guys give me some directions? Rodrick asked the milkman if he was gonna take his milk, and he said no. Just note that Rodrick didn't even have any milk. Since we didn't know where we were either, so he just joined us around the fire. A few hours later, we all were trying to get some rest, but we heard a loud howling. It sounded like it was coming from not so far away, so everyone immediately got up and tried to find a place to hide. Sadly, there's not that many places to hide in the woods. Since I'm the only smart person in the group, I hid inside the giant tire. But Rodrick decided to make a stupid decision. Live, Greg. Live. I started to roll down a giant hill, and I thought I was gonna hurl. Luckily I stopped, but it wasn't very pretty. Apparently, we were right above the camp, and I rolled right through the walls of Mr. T's cabin. Soon after everyone heard the crash, they all ran down the hill to help me. But it wasn't long before Mr. T came out of the cabin. He lost his mind. It's 1 a.m., what the is going on? What happened to my cabin? Why is there a milkman here? Tell me who caused this mess right now? Everyone was frozen in shock. I don't think they've seen Mr. T like this before either. I was about to fess up and get it over with, but it was me. Almost right after Rodrick said that, Mr. T grabbed Rodrick and told him he was getting the chair. Tuesday morning that morning, Mr. gathered up the entire camp to watch Rodrick's execution. Me and the rest of the guys were up all night because of being lost in the woods, but after finding out Rodrick was going to get the chair, we couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Everyone had to sit in these bleachers and watch Rodrick behind a big glass window. So I guess this is it. Rodrick's going to be gone, forever. I'm just gonna be stuck here in this military school camp thing. All Rodrick could do was sit there and stare at me with his dumb, goofy grin. I don't think he knew what was going on. That's when I started to remember what he was like back when he was normal, and how I'll never see him again. I actually started to tear up. But then again, Rodrick exceeded my expectations. It tickles apparently, he's also immune to electricity. I was so relieved, but that didn't mean he was safe. Mr. T took Rodrick out of the chair and said he'd execute him himself. Mr. T started to drag Rodrick outside, and everyone got up and followed them. I'm getting rid of you right now. You'll have to catch me first. Thus, it began. I am obviously not falling for that. Bam. After Mr. T ran into Rodrick's trap, that bought Rodrick some time, and he started to run again. Little did everyone know, Mr. T had a gun. What, it's huntin' season. Don't shoot. After Rodrick hit Mr. T in the head, he dropped the gun and started to run again. When Mr. T flew up in the air, Rodrick gave me a smug look, and I realized he had. Rodrick lifted the cork out of the hole, and Mr. T crawled out. Rodrick asked Mr. T if he was ready for more, but Mr. T called it quits. When Mr. T saw Rodrick, he actually backed away. He was scared of Rodrick. I asked Mr. T what he was gonna do, and he said he was gonna send us home. Wednesday first thing this morning, Rodrick and I were sent on a bus back home. It was kind of sad saying bye to the rest of the group though. January Friday, the rest of the year flew by real quick once we got back home. Everything, pretty much went back to normal. I was kind of surprised though, because Barney of all people visited us today. Barney said he called the military school camp to see how we were doing, but found out we haven't even been there for the past few months. So I told Barney that Rodrick basically graduated. Barney believed me and he said he'd inform the CIA. So now that the whole CIA Rodrick problem is solved, I probably won't have to see Barney again. Kind of sad actually, he was a pretty good guy. I might invite him to Rodrick's next birthday though. Rodrick really wants to see him in a Barney the dinosaur suit. So I said everything went back to normal, but the reason why I started writing in this again was because we were kidnapped. To be continued in Rodrick Stinks 5.